Hey everyone, welcome to the Crypto Cheat Sheet podcast. This is episode 1, February the 11th, 2018. My name is Brad. I'm here with my co-host Trey. Trey, what's going on tonight, man?
What's going on, Brad? Looking forward to chatting.
We've had one hell of a week this week in the markets. Looking forward to getting into this a little bit. We plan to cover a little bit of news. We'll touch on some of the top stories for the week. Then we'll dive into the markets. We'll hit some metrics on the top 100, what's been going on for the week. I want to get some insight from Trey on what's been going on in the Bitcoin market. And then finally we'll wrap up and we'll hit our random coin spotlight. I think you guys are going to like what we're talking about this week. So stick around for that here at the end. So I'm going to share the screen here, and we're going to talk about the CFTC and SEC Chairs discussing their oversight role of virtual currencies. There's a lot of quotes flying around. It seemed like the Twitter community was super bullish. Trey, I know you watched this live for a little while. We had a quote from Jay Clayton saying he believes that every ICO is a security. What's your take on this? What's going on here? Is this bullish or bearish, or what's going on?
Well, backing up, watching the Senate hearings was actually hysterical. Anyone who watched it or was on Twitter probably saw they used the term HODL or hold spelled with the D in front of the L, which was pretty amusing seeing chairmen and senators saying that term. So overall, yeah, I would agree. It was incredibly bullish news because Chairman Giancarlo even talked about he's tried to get his kids into stocks and they have no interest in that, but they're all about cryptocurrencies, known cryptocurrencies. Further, that on its own is not bullish news, but they were very clear they want to foster innovation and not at the expense of investors, and that's where the regulations will come in. But they were very clear that getting proper regulation without stifling innovation was the key. And there was one quote from it where it was either Chairman Clayton or Chairman Giancarlo where they said, we owe it to this generation to be thoughtful about what kind of regulation we put in space. And that alone, I think, was fairly bullish news.
Yeah, it was interesting to see them talk about it that way. I think in general, just having them talk about their kids owning crypto kind of made everybody feel better for whatever reason. I think when I think about these coins and whether or not they're going to be securities and what that means for everyone, to me it feels like eventually someone's going to have to go to court, someone's going to have to fight it, but they're probably just going to go after the biggest scam coins first, and most of your big projects are going to be fine.
Yep.
These guys have spent a lot of money on lawyers, and they're doing things as close to the right way as you can without official guidance being out there. So if you're holding a lot of these coins like Golem or BAT or I don't know, you name some of the bigger utility coins, you're probably okay, I would think.
Especially, one thing to keep an eye on is, to your point, they're definitely going to go after the scam coins first. And you look at the current coin market cap top 100, I don't know what half the coins are. I would venture to guess that quite a few of those are pure scams. So coins like Civic with, VC like Vinny Lingham running them, that's going to be fine. When you're looking at these coins, looking at the team behind them, who has the resources and the experience and the team that's going to be able to either comply with the laws or make a valid argument in a court of law why they shouldn't have to comply is going to be pretty crucial moving forward.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the next story. We had Binance. Binance was down for, it was more than 24 hours during the week. You had John McAfee coming in and spreading, some rumors that Binance had maybe been hacked. You know, it was interesting to see that back and forth. At one point, it looked like they, you know, they put their wallet addresses up and said, hey, you know, their quote was, the blockchain thankfully provides a public ledger that anyone can disprove FUD. And so they gave their wallet addresses, which I thought was a pretty ballsy move.
Sure.
What do you think about Binance?
You know, having been around the space for quite some time, and we've seen quite a few exchanges get hacked. And normally when an exchange gets hacked, they're not going out of their way to put forth, you know, you saw the Binance folks, you know, they communicated effectively throughout the process. You know, not being terribly technical, I still don't understand exactly what happened, but, you know, if my funds are on Binance, sure, I'm going to be a little bit concerned that they could be gone, but I'm also going to take some comfort in the fact that they're willing to post their blockchain address. Then, all right, well, the thing, my funds aren't hacked, they're not gone. I would much rather them take their time and get everything squared away before they come back online with a potential vulnerability. So these things are going to happen. And the truth of the matter is, anytime your funds are with a third party, there is counterparty risk there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. As much as you can, you've got to try to, you know, minimize that risk. If you can get your coins, if you can make the trade and you know that you're going to be holding those for a while, pull those off, put them on your ledger or your Trezor, and keep them off exchange. There's no reason for them to be there if you're not, you know, day trading in and out. It's relatively easy to get your coins on and off without, you know, risking something like this happening with Binance, and you just lose everything. So that's a good point.
Especially with the way ledgers and Trezors are these days, you know, not most, but a lot of the top tier coins are going to offer those security features. And if you're not actively trading them, it's really unwise to leave them in the custody of a third party anyway.
It's actually a pretty good segue into the last story that we wanted to talk about, which is the MyEtherWallet fork to MyCrypto. You know, I didn't know much about the background of MyEtherWallet and this company, but you know, when this happened, I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, "Is this real?" You know, because they've always, I feel like they've always been fighting people like hacking or like faking their website name to make it look really close to MyEtherWallet. So I thought this might just be another one of those scams or you know, almost like a virus, but really it was just this was actually internal to the company, right? I mean, we had the founders kind of splitting, and you had one staying, and I guess is still running the MyEtherWallet, and then you've got another founders took like 20 people, and now they're MyCrypto.
Yep.
Which pretty much sum that one up. What are your thoughts on that one?
I would assume the new one's going to be MyCrypto wallet, just kind of building on that. And the main founder of MyEtherWallet, my Ethereum wallet, basically came out, and it was a really vague post, but it was long-winded. And he took the high road and just said, "Look, you know, I wouldn't be here without the folks who split off, but going forward, they have a different vision than I do. So I'm going to continue running my Ethereum wallet, and they're going to start and go on their own project, and good luck to them. They'll do well because I wouldn't be where I am without them." So, again, this is pretty common stuff in normal startup business world. Crypto being so young, you know, this is not the first, but one of the earlier splits of visions on a founding team. And as long as they can prove, you know, security and viability, I don't see any reason why my Ethereum wallet wouldn't continue to be utilized in the same manner it has been. And I have no clue what to say about the new split, the MyCrypto wallet. We'll have to see what they come up with before we can really opine on that.
Yeah, that's true. And then you have, you know, since they forked the code, it's basically the same product right now, and I'm sure they'll, you know, diverge going forward. But if you got your, I know Trezor, you connect directly to MyEtherWallet to get your Ether So
same with
that's okay.
Ledger.
Yeah, so that's okay. You're going to be using that. It's fine. They just forked off. There's no hack. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just you're going to have two separate projects going forward.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is, it's not like they can't get into your address when you protect it via Ledger or Trezor anyway. So your address is still going to have your coins, and I would probably wait and let this settle and see what comes of it before trying to move your coins off either of them. They're still at that address and protected.
All right. Well, let's dive into the market segment. We had a hell of a week early in the week. Bitcoin dipped down and went sub 6,000 for the first time, and I guess since I guess that would have been September, October timeframe when we last saw that range. Market metrics. Oh yeah, go ahead.
It was November timeframe, but yeah.
November. So market metrics for the week, looking at the top 100, we only had 8 coins that were up versus US dollar. The average coin was down 14.68% against the dollar. We had 32 coins that were up versus Bitcoin. And your average move against Bitcoin for the top 100 was minus 4.31%. So mostly across the market, we were down, both against US dollar and against Bitcoin.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is, we'll hit on Bitcoin in a minute, but this is a good time to kind of point out, there's a lot of upside in trading altcoins when altcoins are good. When altcoins aren't good and Bitcoin's moving down, you kind of get double roasted, because normally altcoins outpace Bitcoin in their moves down. So you're losing dollar value in Bitcoin, and then you're losing value against Bitcoin in altcoins. So the nice thing to see is over the last couple of weeks, alts have moved down, but they have not moved down nearly as drastically as Bitcoin. So kind of a sign of strength in the alt market, if you will, there. At least it appears like that as of now. And we've actually even seen some altcoins gain dollar value against amidst all this. So, I think we're getting a little bit closer to what potentially is a nice little alt spree coming up here. This actually timed pretty well. We had that alt run in December into January, and you kind of look at that as maybe the first phase of getting an alt run started. And over the years, we've seen this many times. You get the first run, there's always a sell-off and a dead period, and people are like, well, that was nothing, and they quit paying attention. Next thing you know, altcoins are going crazy. So there are several that look good. Let's hit on Bitcoin real fast, though. We actually just closed a couple hours ago with the highest weekly volume across the major Bitcoin exchanges since we broke $300 back in, I think it was October or November of 2015. So it was like the highest 26, 27 month volume we've had in a long time. And so, we made some pretty ugly lows there, and pretty brutal dump. In about 6 to 8 weeks, we went from 20K all the way down to 6K, and it was about a 70-ish% retrace. But there's clearly buyers at that level, and price bounced pretty hard. Closed the weekly with a pretty nice doji bullish inverted hammer, if you will. And the volume kind of backs that up. And for whatever reason, Coinbase is not showing the volume. It was earlier in the week, but see if you can click on Bitfinex or Bitstamp there, Brad. And
I saw that on Coinbase. It wasn't reporting right, because we had that daily when we had
there was over
reversal. Every exchange was the highest volume we'd seen in since over a year, right?
Yeah, it had been a long time, and basically the largest dailies or 3 days we'd seen since that break of 300 over 2 years ago. And I don't know what's going on with Coinbase, but I kept clicking around today, and it's like the volume disappeared, and I would imagine it's just not pulling it correctly. But
right.
Yeah, if you look at kind of what we've got, there's still a downtrend line, as you see in the chart there, but that weekly volume we got coming off that 6K level, it shows quite a bit of strength in the market at that level. That doesn't mean we're going to bounce to all-time highs or anything, but it's going to take quite a bit of bearish and selling pressure to get us down through 6K, which, anyone who's looking to get in long term, this potentially could be a pretty nice entry here, at least in the medium term.
So you feel pretty good about bottoming, about that bottom that we had and the recovery that we're having?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we saw crazy volume at 10K, that didn't hold, and we saw crazy volume at 8K, and that didn't hold, and then we saw basically just a spike down to 6K, which was immediately bought back up. So there's clearly buyers at 10K, heavy buyers, and then heavy buyers again at 8K, and then they weren't real interested in seeing the price go all the way down to 6. So I wouldn't say we're out of the woods, but right now that paints a fairly bullish picture. When you have that long of a spike, or that long of a wick on a daily candle or a weekly candle like that, and closing as a hammer, it closed red, but I think you could say that was kind of the selling climax for that run. And worst case scenario, I think we get a bounce over the next few weeks up to 12 to 15K. And, if we can break that downtrend line, there's potential either consolidate sideways and maybe test all-time highs later this year. Or if we can't break that, then, there's a chance for more downside as well.
What are your thoughts in general, alt-wise? We've got our coin spotlight coming up. I know that's one coin, one alt that we're gonna focus on a little bit, but just in general, I think you touched on it earlier a little bit, just in that, a lot of times when we get these big runs, these big altcoin runs, you'll have kind of a pullback in the middle before we kind of reload and go. Do you think that's kind of where we're at? And could we see, a run where we get Bitcoin and alts running together?
So let's hit the first question first. I think, yes, the fact that alts kind of held their positions and their levels, even amidst all that Bitcoin dumping, alts weren't making new lows. At worst, they were just kind of going sideways, and you could call it consolidation before a next move. In general, I think the alt market's pretty primed for a move. I mean, we, since about June, have been in a straight downtrend. There have been, some bumps here and there, but nothing significant until we saw December, January, that little run. And pretty decent volume came back to the alt market at that point. As that volume has dissipated and I don't want to say disappeared, but all but disappeared. Prices have slipped, but they've slipped back down to support levels that, you would look at as pretty good long-term entries or mid-term entries on altcoins. When that volume returns, I do think there's a pretty fair chance that alts get rolling. As far as Bitcoin and altcoins moving together, short-term, I think Bitcoin's going to be moving up to that 12K range and testing that downtrend line. I think alts will go up with it. As we've seen over the years, for alts to flourish, we really need Bitcoin sideways. And Bitcoin's been incredibly volatile over the last few weeks. So not a whole lot of chance for alts to actually make any moves when Bitcoin's that volatile.
Yeah, if we could get that, that like 10 to 12 or 12 to 14 range to hold for us for a little while, we could maybe see that run. Let me that first. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna add one more thing. Looking back to 2013 and 2014, we always try and identify previous moves and find fractals or repeats of market structure and the subsequent moves. And I've seen charts drawn where, that April 2013 dump, this dumped almost to the percentage, the exact level that one dumped. What that did is it dumped all the way down, came back up, and kind of consolidated sideways for a few months before making new highs and going on that crazy run at the end of 2013. I've seen other people that are comparing it more to 2014 after we peaked at 1200 and came down, and what that one did is it dumped hard, came back up and consolidated and started a multi-year downtrend, which I think both are equal possibilities. I don't think we can say for certain which way is going to happen, but I do think we're going to get a bounce and some sideways and then determine from there.
Yeah, it was interesting in that first run that we had, man, a lot of the volume went to Binance. You had a lot of these new, like the new folks that had come in, since Thanksgiving and Christmas. They came in and, Bittrex was shut down to new users. Nobody was going to Poloniex. Everything was shut down and everybody was using their ref links and, just shilling the hell out of Binance. And so everybody ran over there. And like you had these coins like Tron, Cardano, and a lot of stuff that, you hadn't really seen yet, but it was on Binance and people were talking about it online and those things pumped really hard. Ripple, it was on Binance. It pumped really hard.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting when Bittrex opens everything back up and you get some new users on there. I think there's a lot of coins on there that aren't on Binance, aren't on KuCoin, that you might see get a pump from that.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting because you look at last year during, we had that really nice alt run from kind of late February into June, and that was all on Poloniex for the most part. Bittrex, had some volume, but the majority of the volume was on Poloniex for whatever reason, be it withdrawal limits or whatever. Lack of attention to sport tickets, people have kind of migrated to Trex over the second half of 2017. Bittrex is in an enviable position of that's kind of the go-to altcoin exchange right now. But when they got inundated with new user registrations, they had to shut things down as well. And that's where you've seen Binance and KuCoin and Cryptopia really jump up and steal some market share like you were alluding to there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, when Bittrex opens back up, where is the volume going to be?
Yep.
Volume in general has fallen way off on alts since, I guess that was probably the middle of January when everything kind of died off. So we've had about a month now where just volume in general on the alt side has been gone. So when it does come back, it'd be interesting to watch where it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, the truth of the matter, we talked earlier about this potentially being an accumulation zone after phase one of the alt runs. The fact that it's been really low volume and just kind of bleed on the altcoin charts and not high volume dumps and not breaking key levels, it certainly would seem like this is just like a consolidation phase waiting on Bitcoin to chill, and we'll maybe start phase two here before too long, and I'll hit on that in a minute. But to your point, where users are going to be trading will certainly be interesting to see, because Binance has now established itself as, the exchange that everyone's already on. Whether Bittrex lets that many people on or not, I really have no idea. But I do know there are millions and millions of new altcoin traders that are itching to partake in an altcoin run.
Yeah, it's true. You saw it. They came in hard.
Yep.
All right, let's hit our coin of the week. So we'll do every week. We're just going to pick up kind of a random coin that we've been looking at that we think's got some potential to move relatively strongly over the next week or 2 weeks or month. Usually it's something that's got some kind of catalyst coming up that we can talk about and give you a little history on. So this week, that coin is going to be none other than Ethereum Classic. So Trey, I know that you love Ethereum Classic. This has been your baby for a long time, and they've actually got some really cool stuff coming up. I'll let you kind of lay the groundwork on this one and tell us about what's going on with ETC.
So it's definitely a love-hate relationship. There are times when I'm not a huge fan of it, but yeah, I mean, you look at what the news they rolled out a couple weeks ago about this Callisto Airdrop, which is basically it's a brand new token, its own network, but the incentive structure behind it is trying to incentivize cold staking. So giving users incentive to not just hold, but stake Ethereum Classic and be able to make additional money via or passive income via holding it. So it's something that, as far as I know, has not been tried successfully. It may have been tried, but It certainly hasn't been tried on a coin or a project the magnitude of Ethereum Classic. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. That March 5th, they will be airdropping Callisto 1-to-1 to anyone who holds Ethereum Classic. As of now, there's no exchanges that have come out and said whether they will or won't honor the airdrop. Safest thing would be to keep the coins in a wallet where you own the private keys and you'll have access to the coins. MyEtherWallet, we hit on that earlier. That would normally be the safest bet, especially if it's secured with a ledger or Trezor. But as we move closer to that, there will be exchanges and more instructions, more clear instructions on where to have your coins to make sure you can take advantage of that airdrop.
Yeah, I think we see, you saw NXT with the Ignis airdrop.
Yep.
Earlier, I guess that was in January. That coincided with the alt run that we had from kind of middle of December to middle of January, and man, we saw it go, what was it, 10-20x in a matter of a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And so it's market psychology, right? When you have these airdrops and you have new coins coming out like this, people want to try to get into those coins so that they can take advantage of both. I mean, if there's going to be some value in Callisto, then people will kind of pile in to Ethereum Classic. That increases demand, that drives the price up. And then it's kind of a snowball effect, and you see it happen over and over again with a lot of these airdrops. And so that's why we're talking about it right now. Yeah, it's still 3-4 weeks away, but you've kind of seen ETC pick up a little bit. You're starting to see kind of some of these the people that are ahead of the game. They're starting to build their position, and eventually it's going to build up and snowball, and people are going to. Then the FOMO starts, right? Everybody's going to try to get in, and it's interesting to see how you play that too. I mean, sometimes you get the huge pump early, and it may not even be worth it to hold and get the airdrop coin. You just kind of have to play it by ear. But I mean, you can talk a little bit about that. I mean, you've played these before.
Yeah, like you saw last summer when Bcash came out and they were doing a 1-to-1 to all Bitcoin holders. The run up leading up to that was really crazy, and then you hit on NXT, that one more recent, so we'll hit that one a little more. But NXT had retraced about 90% of its little run up early 2017 and came down, hit a support level, consolidated for a while. And what we saw in the weeks leading up to that was NXT went crazy. I think it was sub 1,000 Satoshi all the way up to like 14,600 Satoshi. And it dumped really hard after the airdrop, but if you time that right and you got in anywhere near the bottom, like, let's just say under 3,000 Satoshi, you made a nice return, then you get Ignis and you can still drop or dump it on the way down, and you made pretty good money on both. Plus you got the free Ignis. And so that's what we're looking at with Ethereum Classic. The nice thing about Ethereum Classic is if you look at the chart, it's really consolidated for the last 4 or 5 months. And it's been on fairly high volume in this range. We've been basically between, the majority of the time it's been between 200 and 300, but it had some spikes down below 200 and it's spiked up above 300 a few times. But as we're getting closer to this, and as of today, we're about 23 days away. Ethereum Classic starting to like creep towards that resistance line that hadn't been able to break. And what we're looking at is, okay, well, it's been down here in this range for a long time. It's obviously been bought up heavily in this range. And so that market is going to move up. They're not going to give away free coins to late comers. There's markets punish late comers. And so people who had the foresight, like you talked about, are in a position where they probably already have the majority of their position established. They may buy some more on a breakout or something. But for the most part, they're just going to ride this, and maybe it spikes so hard they're willing to just take their profit and get out. And there'll be plenty of other people who are willing to keep the Callisto or wait for the Callisto airdrop so that they can get some of the cold staking. As you've seen with other coins like Decred and some of these other proof of stake coins, there's pretty nice passive income from incentivized holding. Masternode coins are the same general concept. If you can incentivize holders, there's passive income that comes from that, and they're willing to ride market ups and downs or market fluctuations because they know over time that passive income is going to make it worth it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. We're still waiting on a break of this 320 to 350 range. That's Satoshi price, and then once it clears that, and top of the I think it was not the 1 day cloud. Well, let's hit that real quick. We just broke above the 1 day cloud on a nice little uptick in volume, and the daily cloud is also flip bullish. So there's a pretty good chance for a nice move here, and as long as it's consolidated here, that move up could be pretty explosive as well.
This is a good point to note that this show is for entertainment purposes only. This is not financial advice. Please do your own research and manage your own accounts. This is just entertainment. Continue. No, I'm just kidding.
We're trading magic internet money anyway,
right,
so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think to your point, there's a lot building here. There's some key technical levels that once it breaks, I think you could see that FOMO, and so it's a good coin. I think fundamentally, Ethereum Classic has a strong community behind it. You've got Barry and TCG behind this thing, so they're not going to let it die. They've got things planned for it. So I think in general, it's it's got a good future, and this is a pretty good opportunity, I think, right here.
Yeah, multiple development teams working on it. There's quite a few commits. They just launched their new Emerald wallet. There are things happening with it. Some of the things aren't as sexy as some of these new coins that are coming out that are not as sexy as these new coins coming out that are promising all this grandeur, for lack of a better word. But delivering on a lot of those promises is pretty difficult. Ethereum Classic's building protocol layer, infrastructure layer platforms that other coins, utility tokens, application tokens are going to run on top of. And I think they're doing it the right way. They're not real worried about marketing and gimmicky stuff. They're doing the blocking and tackling and setting the stage for potentially being a long-term token and being around for quite a while.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up our random coin spotlight on ETC. Trey, anything else you got for today?
No, nothing for today. Let's go Bitcoin. Let's go altcoins.
That's right. All right. If you enjoyed the show, check us out on our website, .com. Follow us on Twitter @TheCryptoCS. And then support our partner, moonware.com, MEWNWEAR.com. We sell all kinds of crypto gear, swag, hats, shirts, etc. Check it out. Thanks, guys.